But I will,
Yeah.
dude, you know what's crazy too, though? I will say, notice like vibe coding for this hackathon, this project I've been working on. Like it is incredible too. Like the test it writes and everything for like
Oh
debugging and
yeah.
stuff are incredible. And then it
Yeah.
like deletes the file for you,
Yeah,
everything.
it's
I'm like, this is
everything.
just, it's gotten amazing.
I
Like
mean,
it's really,
I've gotten to the point where I even have it do things that I shouldn't be having it do, like in the terminal. Like, for
oh yeah,
example,
dude.
setting up like Supabase. Like normally you would write SQL query, like SQL queries to like set up tables. I'm like, you do it,
Oh,
and
I
it'll
had to
just
do,
do it in the terminal. I'm like, I
dude,
don't
I
want to
had
do
it.
it. You do it. It's
I
like,
had
okay,
I didn't do it in the terminal because I was working between I was working between Bolt and Cursor, so I kept
yeah.
switching. So it was just like unnecessary. But I was having it wrote all my snippets
Oh
that I would
yeah,
just
yeah.
copy and paste and
Yep.
run on Supabase. Yeah,
Yeah.
every one. I
Yeah.
mean,
It's
You
pretty
so
know
wild.
what? You know what I find really interesting is like a year or two ago when we were talking, we would always be like talking about shiny object syndrome and how you want to stay away from that because that's
Mm-hmm.
going to derail you from what you actually need to learn.
I
But
know.
nowadays it's gotten to a point where you almost need to embrace shiny object syndrome to some degree
To some
in
degree,
order
yeah.
to yeah, to figure out what works best with what you're doing.
I think
Yeah.
here's the other part too that's hard for people too now getting into this too is if you especially if you're just getting into it is like with the shiny object thing is you still have to stay somewhat focused. Like you need this broad level
Yeah.
understanding overview, but also like we see the amount of tools that come out literally it seems like daily. And there's just
Yeah.
no way that you can keep up with everything. So it's like you do have to, and part of that is too, I think just picking like even picking like brands in a sense that because it's like they're all so good. Like I mean, and Google's pumping out all these tools, Anthropic, OpenAI. I mean, it's just ridiculous how much
Yeah.
stuff's coming out. So yeah,
Mhm.
It's really interesting too how, these tools like Cursor, right? Cursor is using Cursor to build on top of Cursor to add new
yeah,
features. So like these companies are really using like the snowball effect where they build a tool that uses AI and then that AI builds the next tool and the next tool. So it's almost impossible to keep up. I mean, I built in the past like 2 days, I'm still building it, but I built like a web app for a local like school theater company. Um, that would have taken a team of developers probably at least 3 to 4 weeks to build. And I'm basically built the whole thing just in Cursor by myself at night watching YouTube videos and letting
yeah,
it just run, right? And
dude.
just
Because
having
when you let
oversight.
it
It's
go,
crazy.
it's insane too. Because like now I know it's like especially like I notice it in all of them now too. You tell it to do one thing and it's like, oh, but I just read your code and if we're gonna do that, we should probably change this, and now the
Yeah.
whole thing works. And it's like, oh my God,
Yeah.
it's
I mean, a
incredible.
lot of what I'm doing at this point is building dev checklists and then chunking
Mhm.
that, right? So I'll have like
Hey, it's
like
exactly what I do too.
phases where it's like, hey, set up Supabase, and it'll be like 6 items, and then I'm like, work on, phase two, 2.5, and it'll just do like 6 items in one shot because they're all related, so it can build the code for everything. Like, it'll
Well,
build the page, it'll connect it, it'll build the API route, like it'll do everything, and then you're like, cool, that just works now. Okay.
that's the thing I think that if you want to get into this now, it's like syntax and stuff doesn't even matter. You need to understand how to put projects together, how all the pieces connect, and a logical way to actually go about constructing it. Because
Yeah.
then you're going to get the best results too.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the fastest turnaround as well. But it is insane, dude. You can I mean it's almost ridiculous how fast you can pump stuff up out now.
Yeah. Anthony in
All
the
right, so what do
comments.
you guys have? Oh,
Oh, I just wanted to say this one thing. This is a selfless promotion, but or
Hey,
self-full promotion. I don't know, whatever the word is for it. But Anthony wrote, "I like the photo restoration you're working on, Russell." So yeah, that's another example, right? I built this app with Chris in 2 weeks
yeah.
from literally, hey, we have this idea to it's in production and we already have users who are paying. Like we've already made, I think like $50 off that app, right?
Which is awesome, right? Because it took
In
2 weeks
two
to put
weeks.
together.
Yeah. And it's like
Yeah.
full production level, like looks beautiful. So, and it's like 99% of that was vibe coding, right? So I
Dude,
think a lot of this now is like, how can you build an app and then also market it? How can you find your niche and do like the full picture instead of just,
But that's the crazy part too, though, is the time. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I was just saying, like, this thing took me 2 weeks too. Like, to pump that out in 2 weeks is just insane compared to what it would have taken before. And it's a
Yeah.
lot of work. And I think, Anthony, you also make a good point. Like using JSON and stuff, structured
Yep.
instructions can be very helpful. Things like that. Same with output and stuff too, because it can make
Yeah.
it a lot more
I've
refined and
actually
better.
been debating this a little bit in my own head and with Chris recently about what is better, JSON or Markdown. Um, and I'm curious what, like, if you guys are in the comments, if you have an opinion on this. I
You
think
mean for the instructions that you're feeding it, or for?
yeah. So typically, like, AI can understand Markdown or JSON
Yeah,
objects a little bit better than just like natural text. It can,
Markdown oftentimes messes with the output. So
yeah.
I would vote for JSON.
I was gonna say
okay.
I prefer JSON when if it's a situation where I'm using like an AI API and I'm getting a response back, I
Yeah.
prefer JSON because I can give it a structured JSON of what I want back, what it's supposed to look like, and a nice fixed thing. And I
Yeah.
find it gives me better results than Markdown. If you're
Okay.
talking about instructing it for building,
Yeah. Like,
it doesn't matter. I think they're both equally good because the
yeah.
output has nothing to do with that basically.
If you're trying to prompt
Yeah.
inject the AI, you're better off going with Markdown.
Okay. Perfect.
There you go.
So I'm just like, I think more for like things like style guides or, obviously like a development checklist, I think probably works better as a markdown file, but,
Do you know
um,
what I've been doing instead of doing style guides, by the way, recently?
what's
Is
that?
like I'll give it a style for the main landing page and
Yeah.
then just
Just
feed it
reference
the
that.
landing page
Yep.
every time I tell it to do something, and
Yeah.
I get way better results than I've ever gotten with a style guide.
Yeah.
Because it can read that and see exactly what everything is. I don't have
So
to write it all out.
you got to try
Yeah.
this too. And I don't know, because you're working in Bolt, it might
Well, I was
not work
switching
as
back
well,
and
but
forth, so that did change it a lot because it's
yeah.
a little different working in that. It's not the same as Cursor and stuff.
One of the things that I started doing recently was using cursor rules, and
Oh, they're
you
awesome.
can
Yeah.
tag particular files. So I made rules that are like, anytime you touch any UI element, reference a style guide for styles. And so it'll always just go back to that style guide and see like, okay, I should be using this colors or
Well,
these fonts
this
or
is the other
whatever.
thing, right? I think this is the other thing too that I think it has changed so much is like, especially as your apps are getting larger, stuff like
Yeah.
that is crucial
Yeah.
because, you got to remember too, you're not touching as much of the code. So when you come back to it, having that documentation is also valuable because it just provides you with, something to look
Yeah.
at. And if you want to change something, you just change it in there and then have it reference it. But
Yeah.
the rules have gotten really good. The cursor rules are so much better now than they were before. And
Yeah.
there's just so many tools, but just on to like why people should get out of, I
Yeah. Yeah.
guess,
Yeah.
Impetus,
Next.
since we
Yeah.
keep getting
Yeah, you
sidetracked.
guys